Hey guys, welcome to the Tech Chap. Now in this video, I want to find out which of these flagship phones lasts the longest, with the best from Samsung, Apple, OnePlus, Google and Huawei competing. The rules are simple, last phone standing wins, and I think you're going to be pretty surprised by the results, especially which one comes last. Now because the phones have different displays, I've matched all of them to the same brightness by eye rather than a particular percentage. And I'll put all the other settings I'm using in the description below. So let's get straight into it with the first set of results after 15 minutes on the Instagram homepage. And straight away we can see the Mate 10 Pro and the iPhone 10 are in the lead, both with 100% of their charge left. The Galaxy S8 is falling behind a bit with just 96% remaining. So let's move on to Temple Run 2. This is a handy game to test battery life because you don't actually have to press any buttons, it just automatically runs through. And speeding time up through the miracle of editing, we can jump through half an hour of Temple Run 2. So 30 minutes later and the Mate 10 Pro is in the lead with 96% remaining, with the Galaxy S8 still falling behind at 88%, and surprisingly the Pixel 2 XL not far from the back with 91% remaining. Now to really put the CPU and GPU through its paces, I'm starting with the Antutu benchmark. And while we're not here to talk about performance, a quick look at the scores shows, well, the iPhone 10 is way in the lead with its A11 processor, with all the other phones sporting Snapdragon 835 chips, all about the same. Although the 5T does score slightly higher, no doubt thanks to its 8GB of RAM. And then if we jump into the Geekbench 4 results, the iPhone 10 once again comes out on top, with the Galaxy S8 in second. Now let's kick things up a notch with Asphalt 8. This is one of my go-to games for testing the graphical power and the performance of a phone, and it is fairly graphically intensive, so it should drain the battery reasonably fast. And I'm going to be playing this for an hour, a full 60 minutes of this game, which puts us to 2 hours into this test. And that made quite a dent in the batteries. The S8's on 60, iPhone 10's on 64, Pixel 2 XL's on 65, although I'm seeing a bit of a trend that the OnePlus 5T and the Mate 10 Pro once again are still ahead of the pack. But I want this test to be vaguely realistic, so it's not all about benchmarks and playing games, so let's watch a bit of YouTube. And to avoid any copyright issues or to annoy anyone if I'm using their content, I'm just going to play my reviews playlist for a full 60 minutes. Now that isn't the most realistic, most people tend to watch my content for more like 2 to 3 hours at a time, no I'm joking, but we'll see how the phones fare after an hour of YouTube. So we're now 3 hours into this quite intensive battery test, and after 60 minutes of YouTube, the Note 8 has 52% of its battery, the S8 48%, iPhone 10 53%, OnePlus 5T 58%, Pixel 2 XL stunningly 44%, now in last place, and the Mate 10 Pro 68%. That's quite shocking. The Pixel 2 XL is really falling behind, and that could be because I have to have the screen brightness up a little bit more at around 65%, whereas the other phones are around 50% just to match the brightness. But let's see how they fare after another 60 minutes of gaming. We've got Modern Combat 5 here, another really graphically intensive game which should drop the batteries quite a bit more. And of course the other benefit, like Temple Run, is I can leave it and go make a cup of tea and then come back after an hour and pretend I've been working the whole time. We're now 4 hours into this test, and shockingly, the iPhone 10 has overtaken the Galaxy S8 for last place with just 25% of its battery remaining, whereas the Mate 10 Pro has over double that left. Now the next test is 4K video recording. They can all shoot 4K at 30 FPS, the iPhone 10 can do 4K 60, but we're sticking with 4K 30 for this test, and we're going to run them for 10 minutes because most of these phones have 10-minute 4K limiters. That's usually due to overheating, although not all of them do. 10 minutes of 4K video knocked off another 4% from the iPhone 10, which is still in last place, but very, very closely followed by the Galaxy Note 8 and Pixel 2 XL, and then the Galaxy S8. There's only a couple of percent between 4 of these phones, so vote in the poll at the top right to say which one you think will fail first, and then we'll see if you got it right. For the next test, we're going back to Instagram for 20 minutes, and there we have the first low battery sign coming from the iPhone 10. Things are heating up, guys. And by heating up, I mean the battery cells, obviously, in the batteries as they are depleting rapidly. 20 minutes later, the iPhone 10's down to 17%, closely followed by the 18% in last place. The OnePlus 5T and the Mate 10 Pro are way out in front though. I want to see a phone fail, so let's do 30 minutes, a full half hour of running the Antutu benchmark on a loop just to kill one of these phones. I want to find out which one goes first. And at the 4 hours and 58 mark, it is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 which has come last. If you voted for the Note 8, you've won, but if you've bought one, maybe you've lost, who knows. It's still a terrific phone, but the screen size and that relatively small battery cell has made it come in last place, unfortunately, but the other phones are not far behind. So let's jump back into YouTube, my reviews playlist, of course. What else would you want to watch on YouTube? And at 5 hours and 14 minutes, it is the iPhone X to go next. Apple's latest and greatest £1,000 flagship phone has the second worst battery in my test among these flagships. Didn't come last, but it only lasted 16 minutes more than the Note 8. So we've lost two phones at 5¼ hours in. Let's see which one goes next. And it doesn't take long because just 5 minutes later, it's the Pixel 2 XL, which dies at 5 hours and 19 minutes. I expected a little bit more from the Pixel considering it's stock Android and has a bigger battery cell than the Note 8 or S8. So I'm surprised that's gone third, but right behind it, like 3 minutes later, that's the Galaxy S8 done as well. We are now 4 phones down, with the Galaxy S8 taking third place out of 6, which is surprising. I thought that was going to go first, but here we are. At the 6 hour mark, they're still both going. This is really, really impressive from both phones, but then it only takes a couple of more minutes for the OnePlus 5T to finally fail. 6 hours and 2 minutes for the OnePlus 5T, which is seriously impressive, and a well-deserved silver medal for the OnePlus 5T, which means the Huawei Mate 10 Pro is the winner, and it still has 15% of its battery left, with every other phone already knocked out. But if you are interested, it takes another 15 minutes for the Mate 10 Pro to finally succumb. So of course, all these are great flagship phones. You can't go wrong with any of them. And of course, that gold medal goes to the Mate 10 Pro, which I guess most of us probably expected, given its much bigger battery cell size. Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button below if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.